In the past 5 years of coaching Fortnite, I've helped create over 800 different first-time earners. And there's one thing that all these players have learned from the Solos Masterclass and from my YouTube videos is that having an advantage in the start of the season is the most likely way that you can make your earnings. Simply put, knowing the meta before other players makes it so much easier for you to earn and achieve your goals. So what I've done is I've compacted every single bit of knowledge I've learned so far from this season, every single tip, trick, strategy into this one packed video full of information, and the majority of these things you can't find anywhere else on YouTube or publicly available. So please leave a like and let's get straight into this, and I hope you guys can earn this season. Alright, first things first guys, I'm not going to beat around the bush. The most important thing for solos this season is that you get a jetpack. Best way to do it in my opinion is just landing straight at any POI that has a bunch of these Avengers chests. I'll put a map up on the screen of where every single Avengers chest is. Each one of these Avengers chests is a 1 in 3, roughly 37% chance of you getting a jetpack, and these are the best way to get them instantly on spawn. Also, once you get an Avengers chest and get a jetpack, do not be afraid to just dip out of your POI and don't feel the need to fight. Other people are really going to hard W key you early on to try to get this jetpack, so don't feel like you shouldn't be able to disengage. You can easily dip out, get yourself stacked, and scrap loot. That's one big thing I've noticed so far this season, is there's not that many players doing split drops, and because you've got the extra mobility of using the jetpack, you can very easily get a lot of extra chests while doing a split drop all to yourself and have no risk of dying, since you can instantly disengage out of any fight that you get into. The next best way, in my opinion, of getting a jetpack is by going for a bunker during mid-game. Bunkers are still extremely powerful. In my opinion, it can be worth tanking Storm to get them, and they actually got a massive buff this season, which makes them so worthwhile to go for in solos. The main reason they got a buff is you still get these guaranteed 3 god chests, as well as an Avengers chest, as you can see. And the key thing with these god chests is each one gives you a really high chance, about a 90% chance, of giving you armored walls. And armored walls are so crucial for fighting this season, as well as for later on in endgame. And also a quick thing to mention is that despite the Sovereign Shotgun being very good, and the pump as well being viable, the Gatekeeper with extended mag with those 5 shots in it is still the best shotgun in the game by a long shot. It is extremely good, and that is why the bunker is so powerful. You can customize all your guns, get yourself an extended mag Gatekeeper, and have a massive advantage during fights, along with having cap armored walls as well, which is so nice. If you guys still aren't able to find a jetpack after doing all of these different strats, what you can try doing is going into a POI where you have a load of extra Avengers chests. So any POI on the map that's got a couple of Avengers chests, try to do this to find one. And if you still aren't able to find one, what I'd recommend doing is using a long range gun like a striker burst, and then trying to find somebody who's using a jetpack during mid game. Try to get some damage advantage onto them, spray through walls, try to get a crack, and then close the distance as quick as possible to prevent them from escaping. Also, a quick tip is just try to make sure you're blocking the backs of their boxes so they can't just jetpack away. They can be a bit more worried about disengaging. Of course, with the jetpack, somebody can just instantly disengage from a fight if they wanted to. And then one big thing this season, guys, is because of armored walls, as you can see, this guy's trying to place an armored wall, make sure you read what is in the box. A lot of people are forgetting to put center walls in their boxes, they're forgetting to put cones into their boxes because they're so reliant on just placing down an armored wall. So try to be very quick when you're breaking a wall, especially when you've got health advantage, and then try to look when you can get that extra bit of piece control. And this guy does it really nicely, basically fully ships on that Josh guy right there, gets himself completely stacked, and this, at this point in time, is the perfect loadout for solos. Splashes, so you can have white, as well as quick heals during fights, a full fizz, which you can combine with the jetpack for extra mobility, and then whatever shotgun you prefer, I would just go for whichever high quality you get, or a gatekeeper with extended mags, insane, as I've said before, and then also a spray weapon, whichever one you prefer. And to be honest, in this case here, I would have actually gone for this combat AR. I think this combat AR this season is absolutely crazy, especially when you get some good attachments on it, but the AUG as well is a good choice. Probably my biggest tip I can give you guys for mid-game this season is just learning where every single mid-map mobility is, like all of the new pads that have been added in that you can use, all of the fizz rings that you've got to hit through. One quick thing as well with the fizz rings is make sure you jump as you go through them, otherwise you'll die to full damage. There's a bug with that this season. And then also making sure whenever you're rotating using this mobility or just rotating normally, try to be on a high layer. This is so important. You do not want to be like this player down here with 2 players right above him in a scuff spot. Instead, you want to be trying to be the guy on the highest layer possible, because when it comes time to do a jetpack rotate, even just an on-foot rotate next zone, you have so much freedom of when you want to go, so much more information that you can do as you rotate. As you can see right here, he's able to spray people for free, try to potentially get a refresh, and then when it comes time to actually go, what you want to look for on these max distance rotates is somebody around you going first. You don't want to be the first one to go. You want to wait for these players to go first, the players in front of you to go first, as you can see, and then simply pop your fizz if you're carrying it and be able to jetpack. And make sure whenever you jetpack, you cancel it and double tap your crouch, so you slide afterwards, so it's a lot harder to get hit. As you can see, this entire max distance pull rotate completely for free with the jetpack and the fizz combo. One very important tip this season in solos, if you aren't able to find a jetpack, what I'd recommend doing is carrying an AUG or a striker AR, as well as making sure that gun has a scope on it. This means that you're going to be able to do a lot of damage at that range. And what you want to try to do is try to grief people who are rotating with jetpacks and try to get them to die on a rotate. Then all you need to do is to actually go ahead and jump on the loot, and you'll be able to get a jetpack for yourself as well as a big map refresh. You can see that's exactly what I did right there. I got that guy killed, and I go over and fight the other player, and I was able to take him out and get my jetpack as well as a massive map refresh. Don't just throw away all your games in either an opens or a finals trying to key for a jetpack. Sometimes it's better just play until later on, and you'll be able to find a nice refresh and get a jetpack yourself as well. And this brings me nicely on to my next point, which is to practice using armored walls. I see people using these the entire time wrong. One of the best ways to use them is by placing an armored stair like this, so you can't get sprayed from any of these front angles, as well as doing armored walls off to the side as well. Always make sure whenever you place down armored walls, you have a backup escape option that you can use if needed. Like right here, I've still got this backup escape, so even though I'm getting silver sprayed, I've still got this option to get out the box. I'm not just going to die to storm the zone falls far. One very important thing for solo this season, guys, is trying to keep tabs on who and where is the reveal medallion at all points in time. This reveal medallion is normally in the hands of the best player in the lobby, the most confident fighter who's landing over the raft and keying for it. So you have to be aware of who has got it and make sure you're not rotating straight into them. Like right here, this player gets pinged and doesn't know where the reveal medallion is, and they just get taken out completely for free. It's such a strong medallion, guys. It's going to be the game-winning item this season. So you need to be keeping tabs on who has it, and you can use this to your advantage later on as well. If you guys are seriously interested in getting your first earnings and getting better at comp, then go check out the Solos Masterclass. The 6.0 update is almost ready to be released. Me and Reese have been working on it for a very long time so far this season, and there is an insane track record of players who have made their first earnings and have got better at comp from the Solos Masterclass. Over 800 players is by far the best investment you can make if you're interested in comp. And also at the moment, there's a special deal. If you get the Solos Masterclass, you can get Solo Superstars for a discounted price as well. So make sure you go check it out if you're interested. All right, let's get back to the video. This is a very common mistake that I see people making the entire time in solos. Even if they're very good players, like Josh right here, he's won loads of games in the past season in solos, he still makes these common mistakes. So first of all, what he's doing is he's putting himself in the red line zone. When everybody is boxed up, ender first moving, he is now running straight into that red line. Other people are going to be looking back, trying to get shots on him, and he's taking a load of damage. Then next, he puts himself in this, it looks like a good position, as you can see, down on dead side, but the issue of this is there's a 0% chance he pulls next zone, right? Because the ocean's behind him, the zone cannot play into the ocean right here, so he's basically going to have a max distance pull next zone, which is something you should try to avoid. Then the final mistake he makes is sometimes players always get in this mindset of trying to be front side at all points in time, and sometimes front side is not the best position in zone to be. As you can see, he's fully focused, even pings front side trying to get exactly to it, and this leads to him being in this very awkward spot. Loads of people around him boxing it next to him, potentially box fighting him, means his next rotate, since he's center of zone, is now going to be very difficult. Instead, what I prefer you guys do is try to position yourself on the edge of moving zones, especially since this is dead side. You can box on the edge, maybe above this player right here, have a free access to this left-hand side of the zone to rotate very easily with the jetpack. Always be aware that edges sometimes are better than being front side, which is a mistake that he made this game. He was able to recover it though, and still managed to get really good placement in this game. Always be aware of where you're positioned in the current zone, where the zone is likely to pull, so you avoid awkward situations like right here, just running out through the middle of zone with loads of players around you, likely to get jumped in on or get shot as you do the rotate. Now, onto a big one, guys, and is how to jetpack correctly during endgame. This might seem quite simple, but I guarantee you, if you play a solo cash cup, you're going to mess this up a couple times. So let me explain it as clearly as possible. So first things first, you should always try to be on a high layer whenever you're using your jetpack. You don't want to be sitting, way down on low ground. It can be a little bit scuffed for getting held and next zone. So what I recommend doing is being on a high layer first of all. Then next up, as soon as zone swaps, try to pop your fizz before zone swaps, so you've got that low gravity effect and you can go further with your jetpack. And then do not just edit out the front of your box towards where zone is pulling. The issue is, if I was to edit out the front of my box and go out this way, what would happen is there's a player right on my head who can shoot me. There'll be a player right behind me that can shoot me. Remember, people can shoot an ADS while they're jetpacking, it's very strong. And there's a player right here that can shoot me. Instead, guys, either try to leave out the bottom of your box, so edit out the bottom and then jetpack towards front side, or what I do in this case, which I think is a very solid play, is sprinting around the side and then using your jetpack from the edge of zone. Now, when it comes to actually using your jetpack correctly, guys, there's a couple techniques that you need to practice. First one is just doing this little mini boost, like right here. I do a little mini boost and then cancel it straight away, so I don't just get flung the whole way towards front side. Instead, I do that mini boost. It allows me to look where I'm going and figure out where I want to land. And then all you do is put your crosshair where you want to land. So put your crosshair on the edge of this building, edge of storm, which is where I want to land. And then I go ahead, reactivate my jetpack, do another boost, and then cancel it midway through the boost. Since I don't want to get flung way too far, I don't want to end up taking too many many ticks. This allows me to land in this very good position in this building without taking any storm, and I also was only up in the air there for around 1 or 2 seconds, which is very good. Compare that to, for example, to somebody on the backside of zone right here, like this player. This guy, he's doing a jetpack, but he's not really controlling it, and instead what he's doing is he's landing on a very bad spot with a lot of other players. There's a high risk that he could get dropped down here, one of these walls isn't his, and he ends up having to waste a lot of mats to make sure he's safe when he lands. And then also compare that to somebody else. This guy actually did a pretty good rotate, as you can see right here. He's going out the top of his box. He does a very nice high jetpack. He does a very big boost and then cancels it, as you can see, and it gets him completely towards front side. And all he should do is just be holding his builds out, making sure he's ready to land. But instead, he keeps on using his jetpack. He ends up boosting himself way far into storm. You guys need to make sure to avoid this. It's just going to grief your chances of winning the game due to storm sickness. This is one of my favorite plays that you guys can do in solos. If you're ever in a scuff spot where you're running into loads of congestion and you're just barely not in zone, as you can see right here that Josh is in, instead of going forward and running this massive risk of running out into 3 players, all their shotguns out, as well as height shooting down, instead just tank a couple of ticks of zone and see where it's going to pull. If it pulls far, you can now go out and wide and storm, or just run in when people aren't looking back, or you might get a lucky zone pullback where it expands back towards you, like in this case, and you're able to rotate completely for free just by taking a couple extra ticks of storm. It's always 100% worthwhile doing that, so you avoid taking the risk of having to run into a 50-50 situation. Don't be afraid taking ticks in endgame, it is so worthwhile. This is one of the most important tips that I made a video on 5 years ago at this point in time. It's one of the most oldest and popular videos on my channel, and it is still extremely important. Whenever you get into a box, like right here, you're in an angel 50-50 situation, how do you win this angel? And all you do, very simply, is swing to the right and try to get low to the ground by crouching, as you can see. So Josh right here swings to the right as well as crouches, and it makes it impossible for Clutch right there to hit follow-up shots. The reason why this works so incredibly well is, as you can see from the opponent's POV, they do a very nice play, they get the drop down to the box, enemy ends up into their face, breaking through the wall, and what happens, if I slow this down, is the character model gets completely blocked by your own character model. Especially you've got a jetpack on your back, or you've got a back bling this big, or you're wearing a clunky skin. The enemy is completely covered by the character model right here, and it makes it impossible to hit any follow-up shots. So you're always going to be losing at angels. If you guys just want to win more angels, you want to be more confident in your 1v1s, just swing to the right, and if you get blocked by the enemy's character model, it is so OP. Here's 3 very useful tips you guys can do in solos, especially during opens. I'd really recommend you guys do this. Do not be afraid to use your armored floors and just whack them down to make sure you're protected. So height can't spray you, as well as nobody can drop you down and start getting a refresh on you. And also Harris here, very nicely, he doesn't greed anything until he absolutely needs it, right? He's still got mats he can play, even though he's only got 7 wood builds. He's not jumping in box for a refresh. Instead, all he's doing is staying towards the front side of zone, making sure that he's not taking any unnecessary risks. Compared to this player that he's just about to kill, Hambam right here, he's now got himself caught in a very awkward situation, backside of zone. He's still got mats he can tarp with, but he's got caught up on backside, and that leads to him going down and Harris getting all his mats. And as soon as Harris gets these extra armored walls in his mats, look what he does. He immediately goes up to a high layer, he jetpack boosts around the side of Storm. It's a very solid play. You can tactics like this if you need to get into a good position, and now he's directly under height. Height can no longer spray him, which I'll talk about in a second. And what he does very smartly is do this armored wall combination again, just making sure he can't get jumped on. He can play this end game out for as long as possible until he goes down here in a second, and he guarantees himself a top 5 from doing this. Next up, there's a couple crazy combos you can do with the jetpack and the Captain America shield. This Captain America shield is extremely viable for using it as a general item. You can use this instead of an AR, or even instead of a shotgun as well. It is extremely strong. So as you can see, what Bass does is he uses it to block an entire side of zone and basically take no damage if somebody was to look up and shoot him. And he also uses this for a high ground take. So as you can see, he scouts out what is going on high ground, then he tries to look and find the highest possible layer, right? So you can see he's looking for that player right there who's on the highest possible layer, and he's going to go ahead and start building up high ground while using this blocking technique. So nobody can shoot him until he gets up onto the second high ground layer, and then all he does is just do a sky ramp up with walls, using wood to not waste his metal until later on. Genuinely, this is actually one of the better strats this season, especially if you've got a jetpack in your inventory. You're guaranteed not to take full damage just by pressing the tap and then cancelling it straight away. It is so strong, and this is probably the best way of playing high ground, is just doing this strategy, getting super high up, and then having an AUG to pressure down and spray people so they don't look up on you. As you can see, all Bass does is ramp up every single time zone swaps, constantly spraying the second height players. They're not able to look up at him, and he's able to hold high ground completely for free. And also, if somebody does chop it, like somebody shoots these cones back here, you can actually just stay floating up in the air while shooting them, while ADSing, and you can do a ridiculous amount of DPS to them and be able to reconnect your high ground. Genuinely one of the best strats you can do. Now, because height is so OP this season, guys, I'd really recommend you get in the habit of starting to look from it, especially during later movings. This is third moving right here. Go towards the front side zone and start looking up at height and seeing if you can chop them out. Height in this case right here just started fighting. This is actually a really solid play that you can do. Whenever high ground is tarping over your head, like right here, it's actually impossible for high ground to shoot down at you because they have no awareness of where you are. So what Bartholomew does really smartly is he uses his jetpack to boost and get an awareness check up onto this height player. And actually there's somebody else doing this exact same play at the same time. So you have to be very careful of this when you're playing up on height. Then Bartholomew uses some pretty good aim to beam this player, goes ahead and chops him out as well. And now he establishes his own high ground with metal as he goes ahead and builds up. Now, once you're up on height, all you need to do is pressure down and also try to make sure you're tarping like this so you can spray down. You're not just staying over the middle of the zone. As you can see right here, whenever you're up on height as well, people are likely to just blindside strat to you and go straight underneath you. So it's also worthwhile trying to use your own jetpack to counter this by getting shots off to the side. If you just stand up here, it's very easy for somebody to just fly up from an unexpected angle and you won't be able to track it very easily with visual audio. Bartholomew though does a really good job tracking the other player, pressuring them non-stop, and also now he's in a little bit of scuffed position on high ground, uses some armored floors to actually stay up and make sure he can't get chopped out in combination with his metal. And then during this final moving, he does a very nice play as well, which is just staying up in the air. I'll talk about this in a second, but you can't actually shoot straight down during this final point in the zone. So if you've got a jetpack up on height, all you need to do is start flying up in the air. You can fly continuously like this for a while, and you can pressure down the entire time that you're doing it. It's such a strong play. And then just like that, Height's able to win the game because of how strong Height is this season. This is an extremely important concept that I want you guys to get the hang of, is that during the final moving zone, at a certain point with around 30 seconds left, high ground can actually no longer spray down upon you when you're trying to go for heal off or when you're trying to actually just tarp in solos. This is so important to know when I see players messing up this the whole time by dropping to low ground and fighting. As you can see right here, zone is only one tile wide, which means that high ground can only basically build one tile at a time and can barely spray down. They have to do like an awkward jumping spray, and at a certain point they can't actually spray down. And because of this, high ground in this game actually got a free win. But if I go back around 30 seconds, this player right here has heal off, they've got medkits, and instead of just getting up to a good layer right here in a second and tarping, as you can see, instead of just getting up to a layer right here and tarping, instead they go for a shot right there. They're worried about high ground, so they're still blocking their head, and instead of just getting up and playing this game out, instead they lift into this very awkward position where they're jumping down on low ground, they're fighting loads of other players, and at least them dying in a top 4 situation when they easily could have won this game if they just got up to a good layer and continued tarping. But look, everybody else is just fighting down on low ground, worried about height, versus height is way up on a sky base, not able to do shots. One really important tip, guys, is that you can actually pop heals while using a jetpack. So if you're ever in a really scuff spot late game, like this player is right here, is playing up Olympus, directly up the cliff face, you can actually use medkits while going wide in storm. As you can see, they're farming through a building that they can't chop through, and they didn't know you can actually pop medkits. So right here, if they just started playing a medkit, they'd have been able to get up the hill and been able to win this game while doing it. Instead though, they ended up panicking, and one thing to mention is you can't boost with the jetpack while popping heals. It ends up cancelling the heals. So they should have been able to pop a medkit, but they ended up just started boosting around, and it wouldn't let them pop the medkit. But you can, if you're ever in a scuff position like down here, and you want to get up the hill, or you want to get up the building, whatever, start popping a medkit, and then just fly straight up with the jetpack. It's one of the best strats you guys can do. Alright, that's all for this video, guys. I appreciate you watching, and as always, if you want to learn how to actually use the jetpacks correctly as well as what shotgun to take, then go check out this video on the right. And if you're interested in getting coached by myself, Zycoma, other pro coaches like Blood, Sven, as well as Resub, who just joined our team, go check out Solo Superstars. I guarantee you'll be made worth your money if you are serious about comp this season. Also, the Masterclass update, as I mentioned earlier, will be out very soon. Appreciate you guys being patient while we create the update. It's a free update for everybody who's already got the Masterclass. And again, if you earn at all during the season and this video is helpful for you and you get your best ever placement or whatever, make sure to DM me. I read every single DM, and I'm wanting to feature some of you guys from YouTube in my upcoming videos about solo earnings. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. See you in a bit.